Good day. I'm Adam Firecat, back in my Scorpion laboratory in the middle of the goddamn night. I was thinking about a memory I had from when I was 10 years old over a concept that came up much later in life. Because of how ludicrous it was, I never bought into it and didn't give it another thought until much later when it had been brought up again, oddly enough, in a cartoon. The concept was from my grandmother. My grandmother on my mother's side's name was Ruby Nell Carlton, and it was Gould before Carlton. It depends on who she was married to at the time. My grandmother had to justify something because the light way of saying it was she was a bit of a bigot. She had a lot of bigotry in a various broad spectrum of areas. Racially was one of them, of course. That's the easy go-to. But there's a lot of hate for the gay community and variations on societal norms. If you looked like X, then you were immoral just from the way you dressed or physically looked. And these were sort of strange throwbacks. That you had a moral responsibility to look a certain way in a certain place. And so there's some strange dislike and disdain. And I'm not going to forgive any of that for generation, because I don't let it go. Just because you're X age doesn't give you some kind of pass. Well, we've got to understand that these people were from a different era of time. Oh, I understand they were. These actions are still abhorrent. This is sort of where I've been on it a lot. Mayhap I'm not considering something. And I try to take it person to person. Why did you come to that conclusion? Well, this is what I was told to believe. Absolutely, but why did you accept that? And why do you continue to accept that? And people ended up being so rigid in one way of thinking than another. And it gets complex. And I think one of my friends, he had said something. Mr. Buffington, I consider his sort of wording in this an important part of how I kind of look at it is people is complex. And so with Ruby Nell, she had said something to me to make a defending argument for the Christian faith. In the Christian faith, everybody was to go to heaven if you were Christian. And she also accepted that black people went to heaven too. But she had a huge, a big problem with them. She had a lot of bigotry involved in racial separation. She was big on separate but equal. Even well past the time that was no longer fashionable. And I had kind of been 10 years old and I asked her, but grandmother, don't we all go to the same heaven? Aren't we all considered equal in the God's eyes? And my grandmother had to think about that for a second. She said, well, the thing is, we go to different heavens. So what are you talking about? Well, there's a white heaven. It's like, get the fuck out of here. Like internally you're 10 years old and you're saying get the fuck out of here. But in reflection, it's just like, have you lost your goddamn mind? You just made that up. That ain't even a thing. Get out of here, that noise. Can't believe anybody would even think that. But it was so ingrained that she needed to believe it, that she put it out there like that was the fact of the matter. We all go to separate but equal heavens. Fuck off, but it didn't mean that she didn't make good chocolate chip cookies. So you get older, and she has since she since got the Alzheimer's, and she passed away. And I never thought about the ridiculous statement that had come out of her mouth, "white heaven." That's, come on, no one reasonable person thinks that. That's just you. That's just Ruby Nell Carlton. Accepting later down the road in my life, I see a cartoon that I was a big fan of because I really loved the comic strip. And this cartoon is called Boondocks. And this is based from a comic strip by Aaron McGruder. And I always loved his work. He really did do an awesome job. And I really hope they do get back to that. They're talking reboot, but it's going to be hard because one of the voice actors is dead. I think Witherspoon, who did the voice of Grandpa, is a very iconic character. But the last episode of the first season is called The Passion of Reverend Ruckus. I believe that's the name of it. And it starts off with Ruckus, Uncle Ruckus, no relation, I think is what they call him, going through white heaven in a chariot driven by white horses next to former President Ronald Reagan. And this is sort of strange. This is not just any heaven, Uncle Ruckus. This is white heaven. It's like, what? What did you just say? And I backtrack. Are you kidding me? You've heard this concept of white heaven, and Ronald Reagan kind of describes it: separate but equal heavens. Now, this is no way that somebody else. No way this is a thing. This is a thing. Looking it up, people believed in separate but equal heavens. So ingrained was their need to justify both the God. They at some point in time said, yes, they're people and they have a choice to attend church and accept Christ and all this stuff and go to heaven. But they keep having to justify, yeah, but we're fine with segregation and we really don't like this race. How do we resolve it? It was a thing. And I think it's kind of a throwback from your Jim Crow laws. So it's kind of like, I can't believe that this ever exceeded anywhere past my grandmother. Strangely enough, it was a thing. And I think this is a bigger core issue of we make our gods do whatever we want them to and be the kind of God we want them to be. Personally, I am atheist now. I've been atheist for quite some time. I've had to say the whole idea of deities running around creating universes with their magical powers, it just doesn't fly. It's not reasonable to believe in any way that I can find in terms of philosophy. If we want to show a deity exists, we're going to have to actually put the proof on the table. And I have yet to see any sort of evidence that any sort of deity exists, much less this specific one. But look, aside from that, the idea that we could adjust our God to our bigotries, it seems particularly wrong that we have to make up for what otherwise would be considered an acceptable bigotry, even biblically speaking. It's okay to dislike the gay people because this verse here says it's their fault because they've chose to be gay and we should stone them. That's shitty. It's shitty morality. That's not what we should do, and it doesn't stand on its own. How do you resolve this? Well, the problem is you get people who are gay still holding on to the religion, and then they have to adjust their God. Well, this was man translating in a certain way, so the God itself is actually not saying this. And then the Jesus came, and when the Jesus came, the Jesus changed everything. He had made it so that we don't do that, although I don't know when he had actually said that he had resolved that problem. We're just going to say that that's what he was here for. And because Bible 2.0 is there, then we could ignore the fact that it's the same deity from the Old Testament. Do you believe the Old Testament occurred? Do you believe this stuff happened? Well, sure. Do you believe that's the same deity from the Old Testament? Yes or no? It depends on who you're asking. Some of them will actually say yes. No, it's not the same deity. But for your majority of Christians, they're perfectly fine saying, yes, this is the same deity. So they've had to mentally align themselves to justify what would otherwise be an unacceptable series of statements by saying, well, it didn't say that, it says this. We adjust the gods that we want to suit the morality we already have. And oddly enough, it doesn't go the other way. I'll go into things like gay marriage at another time and how the hell, Christians claimed to own the concept of marriage and thus can restrict it. But that's its own issue. For now, I've got to say, I just don't trust the idea of an adjustable deity being a respectable sort of deity you would want in terms of your deity's okay with bigotry after this point here, here, and here, but now not so much so. And I don't respect making up for holes in your logic with things like separation of heavens and stuff like that. It's the strangest shit I've ever heard, and I never thought anyone else believed it. I don't know why it stays in my mind so much, but I think it stays as ultimately I hope that I can learn as an example of how people think about these sort of adjustments that they make to have to justify what would otherwise be an unjustifiable position. At any rate, thank you very much. Till next time.